Peter Magyar, the same man who won the election in Hungary, hasn't even officially taken power yet, but has already announced that Viktor Orban will never be able to return to power. As the head of the TISA party stated, the new government of Hungary plans to introduce amendments to the country's constitution that will prohibit Viktor Orban and his associates from holding any positions in the country. At the same time, Magyar stated that he is not against providing Ukraine with a European loan of 90 billion euros. And then suddenly, or maybe not so suddenly, President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky stated that the Druzhba oil pipeline, which was damaged by a Russian strike, will be put back into operation by the end of April, and Hungary will once again be able to buy Russian oil while the new authorities work on diversifying supplies. And meanwhile, the President of the European Commission, Ursula, she called on EU countries riding the wave of success to quickly give up their right to veto when making foreign policy decisions. Well, so that in the future no one can block the European Union's unanimous decisions like Viktor Orban did. I'm Alexei Pechiy, let's discuss this together. But before we start this episode, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like the episode, write absolutely any comment under this video, and subscribe to my Telegram channel Pechiy News. So, unexpectedly, or actually not really, the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, stated that the Druzhba oil pipeline damaged by the Russians will be put back into operation by the end of April. And in exchange for this, he expects the new Hungarian authorities to lift the veto on the loan. So, Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine stated that the Druzhba oil pipeline, damaged by the Russians, will be put into operation by the end of April. Not fully, but enough for it to be operational, while he expects other commitments from the member states of the European Union, particularly from Hungary, which has blocked some important decisions for us. The Druzhba oil pipeline, through which Russian oil is supplied to Hungary and on credit. Ukraine found itself at the center of a dispute between Brussels and Budapest after, unexpectedly, Ukraine's Volodymyr repaired the Druzhba oil pipeline damaged by the Russians. Against this backdrop, pro-Kremlin Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who had previously repeatedly blocked sanctions, is now expected to veto the credit. The EU in the amount of 90 billion euros. However, after a convincing victory in the parliamentary elections, the newly elected and unexpectedly President Vladimir
Канцлер Германии Фридрих Мерц на пресс-конференции с Владимиром Зеленским
stated that the damaged facility was put into operation in December with the help of the EU loan for Ukraine. I should also note that the meeting between Zelensky and Merz took place in Berlin, and about the veto, with the loan, the ministers of the two countries. As a result of the discussions, the parties reached a number of agreements, including arrangements on joint development of new weapon systems and measures. Unexpectedly, in fact, the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, surprised everyone today, not just Zelensky himself. He stated that Viktor Orban will never be able to worm his way in again. The Druzhba oil pipeline has been put into operation. They plan to amend the country's constitution to prohibit holding the position of prime minister for more than 2 terms. Quote from Magyar: "We will set restrictions, and there will be no exceptions for anyone, including myself." Such amendments are needed to strengthen democracy. And since the leader of the losing Fidesz party, Viktor Orban, was generally expected to use his veto on the loan, and he will no longer be able to hold this position. At the same time, Magyar has already emphasized that for global changes in Hungary, it will also be necessary to get rid of those loyal to Orban's system, among whom he includes the president as well. Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky said that he should resign following Viktor Orban. The future prime minister also promised to fight corruption, including announcing plans to veto the loan for the Druzhba oil pipeline used by Russians, and
блокировалось правительством Орбана, и, по его словам, это необходимо для
Unexpectedly, Ukraine's Zelensky stated that billions of euros frozen by the EU due to Orban's refusal to carry out reforms of the judicial system and security services were damaged by the Russians, will be put into operation under the management of the largest state-controlled enterprises. That is, the EU was saying to eliminate the monopoly. In the veto on the loan, so they are collecting money there, carrying out judicial reform, bringing Hungary into the European Prosecutor's Office, and so on. By the way, I'll explain now why he didn't do that. There's actually a very important reason here, President Zelensky. The Druzhba oil pipeline, damaged by the Russians, will be put back into operation under a veto. Viktor Orban's government have spent funds from the very same European Union in recent years. The fact is that, according to the opposition, almost 30 billion euros in public tenders over the past 15 years have gone to companies connected to Friends. And unexpectedly, one of the truly wealthy married couples in Hungary is Orban's daughter and István Tiborcs, who owns an empire in real estate and hospitality. The Druzhba pipeline should be operational by April, pending a veto.
Сославшись на семейное.
And unexpectedly, to the European Public Prosecutor's Office, because it would immediately start investigating the money that the European Union allocates to Hungary. At the same time, the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, stated that the Druzhba oil pipeline, which was damaged by the Russians, will be put into operation in April, to give up the Union's right of veto.
И принятие внешнеполитических решений.
So, unexpectedly, in fact, sanctions against Russia and funding for Ukraine should be decided by a qualified majority. Zelensky, what does it mean to be blocked by individual countries? Next is her quote, moving on to voting by Russians. The Druzhba oil pipeline will be put into operation in April and is expecting a veto on the loan.
Как лед тронул.
And unexpectedly, actually.
Вычищать эти конюшни и как...
President of Ukraine Volodymyr stated that the Druzhba oil pipeline damaged by the Russians will be back in operation by the end of April. I'll put an ellipsis here. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this video. Veto on credit and unexpectedly, actually. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky stated that the Druzhba oil pipeline damaged by the Russians has been put into operation. A veto on the loan is expected.